or afternoon or morning or whatever time of day it is that you happen to be looking at this. The cataract surgery is coming along. Things are still in focus a little bit, come and go, but it's working on it, getting better. Um, and I didn't have, in case you're curious, I didn't have the straight, normal, everyday, basic cataract surgery because my eyes are too bad for that. I had to have a little insist with some lenses so I could actually like see. So this is not normal cataract surgery. You just go and get cataracts and move. That you've seen a lot of people. So if anybody's concerned about that, please, the surgery itself was easy and fine and no problem. It's just having to deal with the after effect and getting the eyes to come back into focus again. But I can see, and that's the key part. I can see. Okay. The first study skill. Now, it's going to be something that you probably don't expect because I'm going to say that your first study skill you need to master is that of focus. Get yourself able to focus. And you're going to say, well, that's not a study skill. Okay, but think about this, folks. If you can't focus on what you're doing, no study skill is going to do you any good. You can have all the study skills that you've ever read about and mastered them, be able to give somebody a good lecture on them. But if you can't focus on the topic, those study skills are not going to do you any good. Does that make sense? You don't really need mine. Okay, so think in terms of what we're really looking at here today. Is what I'm trying to get you to the point of that when you sit down to study or concentrate or whatever it is that you're trying to work on, you need to really be able to pay attention to whatever it is that you're doing. So that if you're looking to, I don't know, study your algebra or you're trying to write a report or you're preparing a speech, if your mind's not on topic, you might as well get up and do something else because it's not going to work. Okay? Does that make sense? Because again, if you're got your head all over the place and looking at different things, you can have the best study skills in the world for doing whatever, have the best mnemonic techniques for remembering your speech. But if you're not focused on that material, it's probably not going to work real well. Does that make sense? Because you got to buy that first, because otherwise the rest of this is not going to work. So let's talk about focus. One thought, in a sense, that I've got is to imagine that you've got kind of, those cartoons that they have the bullet things above the head of where the cartoon characters are speaking. Think in terms that you've got one of those little bullet bubbles over whatever it is that you're focusing on. So the question is when you sit down to do your work, where's that bubble? So if you're going to sit here and read a book, do your math, write your paper, is that bubble there? Or is that bubble someplace else on a bill you have to pay? Are you paying attention to the television? Or is the bubble over your kids? Are you thinking in terms of something that's on the stove that's going to be boiling over? You need to attend to those issues first, because if your focus isn't on that, let's just say you're going to be writing a paper. If it's not going to be writing on that paper, the paper's not going to be all that good. And it's going to take you, if nothing else, it's going to take you longer to do it than if the paper was your focus. Okay? Now, let me talk about multitasking. You may think you're a great multitasker. Multitasking has proven to be pretty much lousy, to put it bluntly. You really can't multitask and be successful at whatever it is you're doing. Now, let me distinguish between multitasking, the way I think most of you will do it, and doing something like, say, putting a load of laundry in the dryer where you go cook dinner, because you're not really paying attention to the laundry. You've got two things going, but you're not necessarily, in this sense, multitasking. When I'm talking about multitasking here, I'm thinking in terms of that you're, say, watching television at the same time you're trying to write the paper, or you're in the kitchen trying to cook, but at the same time you're trying to do something else. Now, what you would be doing while you're cooking, I don't know, because I can't do it like that, but I know some people can. So when I'm saying multitasking, people think that they can do multiple tasks at the same time, focus on 3 different browsers, or try and study something while they're watching Netflix. It doesn't work. If you think in terms of the fact that okay, let's go, whoops, this side. The light over here. Let's suppose I'm trying to concentrate on writing that paper. And then I notice that the light bulb is doing something else, or I'm thinking about getting a new lamp, or I'm doing something else, and my light is going, my focus is going from the paper down here, back to here, back to here, and back to the light again. My brain is going back and forth, just in a sense of where my fingers are going, but not doing it real, because I'm doing it backwards. Your brain takes a while to shift gears. It doesn't go back and forth just like that. You shift a gear and the brain sort of like flags along like, wait a minute, where did you go? And it has to take a while for you to catch back up to you. You lose a lot in that couple of seconds between things shifting gears. I've seen some things that say, and where how they time it, I don't know, but I've seen some things that say that it takes as long as 20 seconds for your mind to go from topic A to topic B. And then if you shift from topic B back to topic A, it takes another 20 seconds for it to shift back into topic A. So you've lost 40 seconds. You do that 2 or 3 times. Think in terms of how many minutes you'll lose during this course of just say even 5 or 10 minutes of doing this back and forth. Also think in terms of when you're driving, or maybe if you don't drive, when other people are driving. You can drive and have a conversation, but if something happens suddenly, there's a car that swerves in front of you or something happens, conversation stops, doesn't it? Suddenly your focus is on what's in front of you and what's ever going on. You can't continue that conversation at the same time you're focused on whatever's going on in front of you. Is that not correct? Because your brain needs to look at whatever it is that you're doing to focus on something, to be able to concentrate on that, to do whatever it needs to do. So if you try to write that paper with the idea that, oh, I can focus and write the paper and watch TV at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, go ahead and do it. And you may end up with something, but you're not going to end up with your best work because you're not focused on it. This is going to be those things that's going to come back and you'll read it later and says, what did I mean when I wrote this? I don't know. Because your mind has got to be on that thing that you're trying to do. Okay? So if you're getting the idea that you can multitask, try and do an experiment sometime and, just time it and see what happens. That you're focusing on one thing for 10 minutes versus multitasking. I suspect you'll find that you concentrate and do better on the thing if you just focus on it for a while than trying to do 2 things at one time. Okay? Now, what happens when your mind goes all over the place? Have a paper and pencil, and when you're trying to say write that paper and something comes up and, oh, I've got to pay the bill, just write it down on the paper, pay bill. Go back to whatever you were doing. It says, oh, I've got to go do this. Call Billy. Write down, call Billy. Just put it down, get rid of it, and go back to whatever it is you're doing. Don't decide you have to get up right then and there and go finish unless it's something like the house is on fire, you've got to turn off the stove, otherwise something's going to burn. Yeah, that you probably need to do. But generally speaking, I would suggest that you keep a pen and paper, just make those notes down. And so you put it down, get it out of your head, essentially. So once it's on the paper, it's like, okay, I'll take care of that later. Let me go back to doing whatever it is I'm doing now and focus on that because everything's written down on the paper. In a sense, this is sort of like kind of related to meditation, if you will, but you're getting things down. Okay. Now, you're going to worry. Let me go on to the third topic. You're going to worry or think about all those things that you've got to do. When do I get these done? Schedule. I'm serious about what I'm about to say, folks. Schedule your worry time. Seriously. So if you're going to say, let's say, study it from 7 to 7:30, or work on your paper or project or whatever from 7 to 7:30, say, okay, I'm going to put those things down on this pad of paper down here. And come 8 o'clock, I'm going to spend 15 minutes and I'm going to worry about this. I'm going to tend to these issues. I'm going to make these telephone calls. Schedule the time to do it. Because once you've got that time and you know that it's in put it into your calendar, actually, seriously. Once you know that it's in your calendar and once you know that it's scheduled there, your mind is then essentially relieved of having to try and remember all of that while you're focusing on your paper. So you've got a couple of things going here. You've got that notebook right here with those those ideas on it, those tasks that you need to do. And you know that when you get to a certain point, 8 o'clock or whatever time you scheduled, you will attend to those things. This essentially clears your mind, gets rid of some of that concern you've got It allows you to focus on whatever it is that you're trying to do for that, like write the paper. Now, of course, you don't need to go follow through with some of that because you don't want to tell your mind that you're lying, you know. So if you write it down and schedule 8 o'clock to go worry and you don't do it, now your worry time can be like 10 minutes and just go worry about it. But don't worry about it while you're trying to do the paper or study your algebra or anything else like that. Okay? Tell me what your favorite items are to focus, and I'll share them with the group if you do. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you found it helpful or what part of it was helpful, or if you've got any questions, and we'll move on from here. Once you get that focus, once you get that bubble up here, down focused on whatever it is you really need to accomplish, then we can take it further and see what we can do about getting something done with that particular material. Fair enough? Let me know what you think, and we'll chat with you later. Have a good night or day or whatever it is. Bye.